Go ahead.
There was, let's see, who was that? Fateh? How do you say that name? I'm being white. One of the other folks who was on the call last time was talking about missed notifications. Got the notification, I think a lot of us added, corrected the notifications, but I wanted to make sure that we had addressed anything in particular of urgency. When I went through, I didn't see anything super urgent or even that needed a response, but that makes me believe that I'm missing it. So I wanted to follow up to see if he could point at some specific issues to make sure that we did not miss something. That doesn't look like, is he on today? Oh, there he is.
I'm here.
There you are.
Yeah, thanks for the enabling notifications. So, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we didn't leave a particular issue hanging.
No, I think
okay.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Yeah, you're showing up kind of weird on the. You're showing up as Benjamin Brile, so. or maybe Benjamin just waved at the same time.
No, maybe I'm doubling myself, but not yet. So.
Okay.
So no, I'm located in Paris, so I don't know if if the other one person is also in Paris, but normally not.
Okay. All right.
Good to have you, Ben.
Yes, welcome everyone. Yeah, this will be a very short meeting. I'm afraid we're missing our main leadership, so they're not here for us to harass or for them to harass us in turn. But let's see, did Kay show up yet? No. All right, well, let's go ahead and come back to that one. Hopefully she'll be here a little bit later. So let's see, Tracy, do you want to talk a little bit about Outreachy, since that was sort of the thing that you were leading?
Yeah, let me share the screen as well for the agenda. So can folks see that? The reference, I'll pull up the document. But yeah, please feel free to sign in. So September 5th was the deadline for the next round of Outreachy from the perspective of communities signing up. And yeah, really pleased to say we've got Jenkins, JenkinsX, and Tecton who are signed up and accepted as communities for the next round. So that's pretty exciting. And I've got this document here as well, which gives some more details, but essentially, what's happening next is for each of these projects, we're identifying mentors and we're identifying projects which are around 12 weeks in length for folks who have programming experience but are typically new to open source. And it covers any aspect. So it could be documentation, it could be coding, it could be UX. And actually we've got the coordinator for the JenkinsX community here, who's Kara, and Kara is also ex-Outreachy alumni. So actually, Kara, I was wondering if you would be open to maybe just saying a bit for folks who aren't familiar with Outreachy, and if there's anything you're looking for specifically from the JenkinsX community.
Probably the easiest way for you to grok Outreachy that will be familiar for you is to think of it as very similar to GSOC. So same sort of thing. We have mentees or interns for 3 months who work on a spec'd out proposal or project within an open source project. And they have mentors and they have regular deadlines, regular meetings with their mentors, and they'll be blogging about their activities with Outreachy as well. So it's a really nice way to extend your community and also to bring this element of like regular mentorship into your community, which is really lovely. I enjoyed my time on Outreachy so much. I worked with Jaeger Tracing and it was fantastic. It was an amazing experience in open source and on a very technical project. So I enjoyed everything about it. And I'm very happy that we're bringing Outreachy to JenkinsX in the next round. I've been working with the JenkinsX community, so a number of the engineers, and we're speccing out 2 proposals. Outreachy does recommend, even if you have funding for 1 intern, to put up at least 2 proposals, because then you're almost guaranteed to have you double your chances of having good applicants if you have 2 separate types of proposals to attract people. They also have a small body of funding where if you do have 2 very, very good mentees who've applied for both of your projects, they might be able to match fund for the one that you don't have funding for. So it's worth putting up at least 2 proposals.
Thanks for that. Yeah, and Tara, you are coordinating for Tecton. Do you want to say anything about Tecton's involvement there? Or maybe if you're looking for anything from the community?
Sure, yeah, so mostly I'm coordinating because Christy Wilson is really good at getting me to do things for her. She will actually be the mentor for the project. Tecton itself is, as I'm sure you're aware, not much, I don't think it's actually even as old as Jenkins X in a very real way. So they're still figuring out some things. There's some new resources on the Google side that have been added, some senior folks, which will be helpful. So I'm in New York this week where the Tecton team is based. So I will be pestering them to start thinking about identifying some projects. There's certainly no lack of things to do. It's making sure that we identify things that are intern appropriate and so that they're good growth opportunities and nothing that's too senior and scaring folks away. So hopefully by the next meeting we'll have something good to report there.
Yeah, and maybe if the next meeting we can highlight all the project proposals. And if Jenkins side, I'm coordinating, and we have 1 proposal so far, which is actually a project I'd almost love to do because it involves the GitHub Apps API and looking at integrating Jenkins direct with GitHub Apps. So yeah, pretty exciting. And Matt Sicker will be mentoring that one. Okay, and just finally, I think we'll probably have some tweets go out on the CD Foundation Twitter account. So if everybody can help by just retweeting those so we reach a wide pool of potential interns, we'll give ourselves the best chance of getting good folks to join our communities. Any question on CDF and outreachy?
Yeah, just a question. Would it be on Linux Foundation Twitter or you have a CD Foundation Twitter? Because I didn't find it.
Yeah, there's a CD Foundation Twitter. I think it's CD Foundation or CDF. Wait, I always have to look this up.
Yeah, if you can put me the link inside.
I'll put the link in the agenda.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, great question. Okay, so moving on. Next, we have just a bit of housekeeping. We had the CDF Contributors Summit back in August, which was co-located with DevOps All Jenkins World. And I've now created a talk repository. If people don't know, on the CD Foundation GitHub, there is a location where we share all talks from the events. So I've created a folder for the Contributor Summit San Francisco, and the README has links to the talks and their PDFs as well. So depending on whether it's slides, links, or PDF. So yeah, please take a look if you want copies of any of the talks from those events. And I'd like, if anybody knows any speakers who were there, particularly the Tecton and the Jenkins, there were a number of really good speakers. And I keep getting asked for the talks. So if they could submit pull requests and just link to their talks there, that would be really great.
I'm sorry, for which the Contributor Summit or the Summit North America?
So this was the past Contributor Summit, August 2019 in San Francisco.
Oh, you already added. I was sorry. I'm running behind on the notes, but you're ahead of me, so good.
Mm-hmm.
And Benjamin, I added the link there at the bottom for the Twitter profile.
Yeah, I saw it. Thank you. So
I
when
also added the
for
CD
Europe?
Foundation Twitter handle up to the top, so we don't need to put that here.
So when do you plan to do something in Europe?
Well, we had the CD Summit Barcelona earlier, and we might have some CDF presence at DevOps All Jenkins World in Lisbon, which will be in December. But I don't think we've looked further than that. But yeah, we can. If there's any other events you think we can might be of interest. Where are you based?
We are in Paris, but we open London and I mean UK, Germany, Sweden, Spain and Israel 2020. So I mean, we invest everything inside Europe. So yeah, I mean, I had a first talk with Dan, but we need to go deeper with Julie from the marketing team to understand exactly how we can help you and how we can have both benefit on this. And also, I mean, yeah, it's like I had some other question, but I'm not sure this is the right place to do. Is I see that you have Jenkins. I mean, various projects. What about your relation with Concourse?
Well, Pivotal is a contributor to, or as a member of the CDF community. So, and there's a fair number of contributors to the Tecton project specifically. I can speak at least that much. So there's definitely ongoing engagement with those folks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because we are contributing quite a lot on this topic. So I was wondering what you are doing because while we are not really all aware, we are just quite new on the CD Foundation to understand how. But yeah.
Well, the
What do
CD
you
Foundation
how
is new
we,
too, so we're all still figuring it out.
okay.
Yeah, the goal is to come to some form of shared strategic vision, I think, from an industry perspective around this stuff. So those conversations are ongoing, and now is a great time to, I think, get involved because there's, the earlier the better as far as providing opinion and input. And
Okay,
then as far as the European presence, I was also going to talk to Kim and Dan Lawrence about whether or not there's Linux Foundation generally or CDF specifically that maybe for Google Next London, I wasn't sure if that was something that was also going to be a possibility. But I'm in New York this week, so I haven't had a chance to talk to Kim. But hopefully we'll have some news about that soon.
Yeah, I expect we'll have more European presence, and we certainly haven't mapped out events for 2020 yet.
And I actually think Google Next might be at the same time as the Lisbon event, so you might have two options in Europe.
I think it's the same week as the summit.
we don't hear you well.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I think Google Next is the same week as KubeCon North America, but
Yeah,
it might be.
So it's what made me wonder if there's an opportunity maybe for us to be at both events. So.
Yeah, so I should
let me make sure I remind myself.
I was just going to say, we have the call for papers for CD Summit North America in San Diego, and that closes this Friday. So if you think you can be there, please do submit a session and please promote out to your communities. Okay.
Well, on our side, we have funds to develop in Europe for any helping you to reach more knowledgeable things on European markets, and we have also an evangelist who is coming, so who will be able to speak on any kind of technical. Yeah, I think I made a mistake. I thought also to speak on, I mean, any European event and next year. So we plan also to build some dedicated DevOps event in Europe. So in the various capital that I've mentioned. So not sure if you can be involved on this topic. We are quite close to AWS, GCP, and Azure. So they will also invest on this topic, but we will lead the topic on the DevOps part. So I don't know how we can be linked to CD Foundation also to help you to have some more audience and dedicated to DevOps.
Is there a link that you could point us at that we could go get some more info? Maybe you could mail it to the list.
Yeah, we are planning to deliver it on October because Julie, who just arrived a couple of weeks ago, so a lot of things to do. But yeah, and definitely we are pro open source. So I'm an ex-Red Hat guy working a lot on open source stuff. So we release various open source technologies. And we'll continue also to release some open source technology. So definitely, if it can be a win-win for us, let's go.
Okay, let's certainly take a look.
And it's worth adding, we have a specific outreach meeting. So maybe if you connect with Dan, he can direct you to come along to that or send some folks to that, because we talk a lot about events and participation in booths at that one. So I think that will be a good to get your involvement as well.
Yeah, Benjamin, I think you are added to that list. That calendar invite should have gone out. So I think you're on that, but we're going to have that in a couple of weeks. So look for that.
Yeah, I have an event with you almost every week, I think, or more or less. So
Yeah.
I will be there. So if I can give any help on every topic in Europe, I mean, you can count on me. For now, nothing in US or in Asia, but on Europe, we invest in quite a lot of fund on our side.
Cool, thanks for that. Going back, I'm just looking at the next steps for the security SIG. Tara et al., I guess what I'd like to have just a quick set of eyes on, I did create the repository. I created a GitHub team specifically for the SIG that has maintainer access, etc. But I think the settings.yaml will also help steward the repository, and I think it'd be a good showcase for us to do that and then replicate that for additional SIGs and working groups. So if we can have some eyes on who's the series of admins and who needs specific access, please put in some pull requests for that file, and I'm happy to update that. I just made it quickly, so if everyone could take a look at that and triage it, I'm happy to modify it as we need.
Yeah, you got my name in there a lot of places there, Dan. I see how it
I know it. You don't have to be there. So
I don't mind, but I'm certainly happy to be a reviewer. Yeah, let me get with. It's just a little tricky because I think the two biggest voices for this unfortunately aren't here today, and but I will definitely follow up.
Cool.
As I am able offline.
Yeah. That's why I put your name in there, but it does not have to.
Yeah, I got it.
Cool.
It is your job to replace yourself. That's a good technique.
Cool. Thank you all. And then I think the last thing I'd like to just schedule and put on our agenda for the next couple of weeks here is to get an in-depth demo from the Linux Foundation's product team on Community Bridge. There's a lot of cool stuff coming in the pipe for that product offering, especially as we talked about outreachy. We look to maybe Community Bridge to help facilitate some project-specific internships and mentorship programs, crowdfunding, a bunch of other analytics that we can ascertain from that tooling. So it'd be good for us to get a once-over, an in-depth once-over of Community Bridge and see how we can best leverage it for CDF.
That sounds great. I'm sure
So
we can.
I will schedule that with everyone, but look for that in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think any opportunity we have to learn as a new foundation is a good thing.
Cool.
So do we want to talk about the APAC time zones? Do we have some folks from APAC who are, that we're forcing to either be on at 3 in the morning or who just aren't joining because of the time? I mean, we've put this off for a couple of meetings now, and I just want to make sure that we're not excluding someone by not addressing this.
Sure. I'm open for how to schedule or reschedule or have additive. I do know, and I've been watching some traffic using our Zoom for specific Asia Pac working groups around teams there. And I believe China and Japan are using our Zoom, but off hours that make it easier for them during their working hours. But I'm happy to start looking at a better time, whether early in the morning or later in the evening.
I was going to say, I think when we were getting ready for KubeCon Shanghai, it was evening. It was like 6 p.m. West Coast, but that means 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
I mean, I maybe an every other type of thing. But maybe we should, do we have a who's where at the moment? Maybe we should start with that. As far as known members, and then figure out a schedule. Because I don't want to, I don't want to have the worst problem, which is now all of a sudden Europe is excluded because it's,
Yeah.
we have European collaborators. So maybe we should start with building a map of who's where. And then once we have that, we can figure out some sort of pivot maybe for alternating times.
Yeah, we can also put maybe a Google form up with proposed times that work for your time zone, and maybe massage that into form. But I'm not sure. We should probably do both. Do kind of a roster of who's where, and then also what time zones would work. What times of the time zones would work best.
Okay. Is there should we just set up a spreadsheet for that, or how do we want to do that?
Yeah, let's set, I'll set something up for like a Google form and spreadsheet.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
May I ask something, because you have been mentioning about the Asia Pacific and also Google at the same time. In some of the communities I contribute to, we have people from like Asia Pacific who can't access Google services. So like, is the Google like the good place? Google Docs.
The Great Firewall, for example.
Yeah, we could use our mail list poll as well. It just is not as robust.
For example, the meeting minutes, like this document is on Google Docs, and people can't read this offline if they are not calling into meetings.
That is a very good point. Yes. Can you guys, can folks see GitHub?
I don't. I am from Europe, but like some people I talk to, they can't use Google, but they can use GitHub.
Okay, well, maybe we need to migrate this to a GitHub gist doc or Markdown. That's a really good point. I should have known better, having gone to China and like, wait, where did all my stuff go? That's another really good point. Okay. We're missing a good chunk of the TOC. Tracy, is this something we should go ahead and start working on? I'm happy to help with this.
Yeah, no, if you're happy to drive that, I'm sure we can all support. And I know specifically we've got Rick from one of our member companies, Aloda, and he does a lot in Jenkins. So he's probably a good person who can provide some input as to what people can and can't access and what are good alternatives.
Okay, could you reach out to him and maybe start a convo? And we could just start if GitHub is okay, then let's just move everything over there. And we should get out of the Google space.
Sounds good.
Okay.
From my side.
Yeah, I took a couple notes there. So discuss possible alternatives, and then creating the roster of who's where and what times work best. That's really, from my standpoint, that's all I really wanted to make sure we had eyes on the SIG, which was the most important thing I think we needed to get through today. Kosuke has a proposal and a pull request for, I think, a working group for just instantiating working groups and establishing the roadmap. I think we've discussed a little bit about the roadmap. And Terry, you brought up some good points about like, how do we prioritize what projects we want to bring in? What does our life look like down the road? So how do we create that roadmap? We might need to create some reference architecture and some guidance around some of our vision statements.
I owe some comments on that. I certainly have a lot of opinions. They're not necessarily the right ones. They can at least be something we can start arguing about. So I will make a note to get a to get a response going on that PR.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, even just comments and opinions on it, and just kick it off. So
Yeah.
happy to see that.
Yes, thank you for the reminder. I was like, God, there's something I was supposed.
Yep. I think that also plays out for some of the call to actions I'm going to start putting out is we're going to have vendors come forward with case studies and use cases. I do want to,
3 minutes back.
from kind of the higher level governance side and then marketing side, is that I would like to start positioning vertical solutions, like CI/CD in healthcare or aerospace and defense or whatever it might be, as illustrating how to propel this into different markets. So if we can also think through from tech stack and kind of referencing our model that way, I think that would be wise for us to just start that conversation. What is the most effective way to bring this to
From the last discussion, I think we were talking about, at least initially, about migration paths, right? We're talking about a lot of these verticals. They're not in cloud. They're not containerized. How do you get them from point A to point B? With a fairly large number of steps in between. I think there's maybe a combination of tech stack and vertical matrix. That, I mean, this could get complicated very quickly, but I think if we identify some, maybe prioritized key targets, we could try and focus on those to make some forward progress. And that would be something I think it would be really interesting to make sure that we're discussing across all the, this has potential impacts on both something like Tecton as well as Spinnaker, as well as all the other third-party integration offerings. So there's, I think we want to lay kind of a preliminary outline and then figure out some, who needs to be involved in some of these on a more targeted basis, as far as how we want to propose either a best practice. That term itself can be a little bit twitchy, maybe even just, building up example libraries. Like there's a bunch of different ways I could see this going. But the main thing that, from my perspective is that we don't overemphasize containerization necessarily as part of that process, just because we don't want to exclude a huge body of potential collaborators who are just not there yet.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
That's the main, I think, and that's also, I think, a key differentiator between us and the CNCF, for example.
Yes.
As far as
focus on containerization. Yep.
Okay, so yes, I am now motivated. As soon as I finish all these performance reviews that are due in a couple of days, I will get on this PR.
But I appreciate those comments, Tara. I think we just need to kick off some of that discussion for our next. So, but
yeah, absolutely. We're kind of slacking on that. I agree.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Anyone else?
That was quick and painless, guys. You get some minutes back to your life today. But if you guys have any feedback on the security SIG, please do take a look at that and have fun for the few minutes back.
Okay, Fada, Zoom is blocked in China. Okay, that will add that to the list of things that we may need to address. Yay! Okay.
Hey,
thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you all.
See you in a couple weeks.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.